Being on a digital transformation team for the first time is a lot of work, and it can be overwhelming if you've never done it before. But what are the things you need to know on your first digital transformation? That's what I'm going to talk about here today. My name is Eric Kimberling. I'm the CEO of Third Stage Consulting. We're an independent consulting firm that helps clients throughout the world reach their third stage of digital transformation success. And one of the common interesting things we find with our clients is that a lot of digital transformation leaders and project team members have never been through a transformation before. They go through these projects maybe once every 10 or 20 years if they have done it before, but an overwhelming majority of people we work with have never been through it before. So what I wanted to do today is share the things that you need to know to really help get you started on a digital transformation and to help you realize the things to be aware of as you get started on your first transformation. Now, if you're looking for even more best practices and lessons from others that have gone through digital transformations, I encourage you to read our book called Lessons from 1,000 Digital Transformations. This is a great resource to read through to learn from 20 different lessons and best practices from having helped hundreds of organizations throughout the world with their digital transformations. And you can read that book by scanning the QR code on the screen in front of you, or you can go to the links in the description below. The first and arguably the most important thing to be aware of as a new digital transformation team member is that you need to learn how to manage internal expectations. Too often you have outside third-party forces that are selling you on a vision that may be unrealistic. And a lot of times organizations don't fully understand and realize how difficult digital transformations are. So when it comes to looking at a proposal from a software vendor or evaluating potential technology, or even defining how you're going to implement technology, it's important that you take everything with a grain of salt and really ask the tough questions to get to the bottom of what is it going to take to make this project successful for our organization, and how can we add a dose of reality to the implementation strategy, or the overall tech strategy for our organization. Now, I'll admit this is easier said than done, and it's hard to do when you've never been through a digital transformation, but what you can do is turn to third-party independent benchmarks and resources to help you get a handle on what it is that it's going to take to make a realistic plan and a realistic strategy for your organization, so that you don't ultimately end up letting down stakeholders within your organization. Instead, you end up helping educate and manage expectations so that they don't expect too much. And one way to do that is to read our Digital Transformation Report, which is an annual report we publish each year, and it contains a number of benchmarks and best practices and lessons from other digital transformations. You can read that Digital Transformation Report by scanning the QR code in front of you, or you can go to the links in the description field below. And this paper and this report should help provide some more realistic expectations based on actual unsanitized benchmarks in the industry. When going through a digital transformation, it's extremely important that you establish your own internal program management function for the project. In other words, you don't want to just assume that the software vendor or the technical implementer is going to do the project management for you. You need to establish the program and project management, because ultimately it's your organization, your internal organization and team, that needs to own and ultimately live with the outcome of a digital transformation or software implementation. So that's one of the first pieces of advice I can offer, is that if you have a team or you're part of a team, you don't want to just be a support mechanism for an outside third party. You want to establish an internal PMO that manages those outside third parties. And the reason this is so important is because that's the only way to ensure that your project stays on track and stays aligned with your goals and objectives as an organization. And by the way, it's important to note that your organization and third-party software vendors and technical consultants typically have conflicting priorities, and therefore it's important that you have that program management established for your organization. Another important thing to do in your first digital transformation is to ensure that you focus on organizational change management, the human component of transformation. And I won't go into all the details of how to establish a change strategy and a change plan, but I do have a lot of videos on my YouTube channel that'll help you through this process. In fact, if you click on this playlist right here, this is a playlist that includes all the videos I've ever done on organizational change management, and this will provide you some best practices to help get you started on the change management journey. Now, the reason change management is so important is because as a project team member, the biggest thing you can do to ensure that your project is successful is to ensure that you address the human component of change. The technology component is important, don't get me wrong, but it's not nearly as important as the change management component of change. So be sure that you establish a clear change strategy and a comprehensive change management plan to ensure that you address this critical work stream within your digital transformation. One of the biggest root causes of failure in digital transformation is a lack of internal alignment. In other words, there are headwinds created by the fact that the internal organization itself is not on the same page for what they're trying to accomplish with their digital transformation. And if you have these headwinds, if your organization is not on the same page, it doesn't matter how well you manage the implementation, it's probably not going to be successful because you have those headwinds and you have that misalignment completely undermining your overall transformation. So one of the most important things you can do as a first-time digital transformation project team member is ensure that you facilitate that internal alignment and take your time to get that alignment before you go too far into the implementation. Too often organizations get so excited and enamored by new technology and the prospects of a new implementation that they just want to jump right in and start doing stuff. And while that may seem exciting and it satisfies a short-term need, it creates long-term problems because if you're not aligned, you're going to be going in a lot of different directions without a clear sense of purpose, and therefore you want to back up and slow down and take the time to get that alignment, make sure you're all on the same page, and that will ultimately speed things up later on, and that will save exponentially more time than the time you spend making sure you get that alignment. Finally, one of the most important things you can do to ensure that your first digital transformation is successful is to ensure that you really listen to and understand the business. Understand what the business operational needs are. Understand how things work today, not just what they're going to look like in the future, but also how do things work today? Why do things work the way they do? Where are the pain points and the opportunities for improvement? As you're going through the implementation, what are the sources of resistance and what concerns and pushback does the organization have? You really need to keep a pulse on the organization and on the business and the operational needs to ensure that you're not just trying to power through by deploying new technologies without considering and understanding where the business is. So it's really important to make sure that technology and business come together, and we can only do that by ensuring that we're listening to the business and understanding the business needs along the way. So I hope this has provided you some guidance to help give you some ideas on what it is you should be focused on and learning from as you start your first digital transformation. For more lessons from implementations and other best practices from digital transformations throughout the world, I encourage you to read our book called Lessons from 1,000 Digital Transformations. It's a free download. You can scan the QR code on the screen in front of you, read that report or that book, and it goes through 20 different lessons and best practices for organizations that want to be successful in their digital transformation. You can read that again by scanning the QR code or go to the links in the description field below. So I hope you found this information useful and hope you have a great day.